Dragon SpaceX, I think that was for cabin fan. Go ahead.
Actually, Jake, it was for cabin temp, and we're feeling just a little bit on the cool side here, wondering what the options are for warming it up.
Copy. Understood. We'll take a look at it.
Thank you.
This is the moment where they walked out of the Falcon support building. This is where our SpaceX suit-up room is located. They stand here, do another wave. Really, this was the first opportunity that we got to see the crew in their suits today. Got in those Teslas and drove up to the launch pad, which is about roughly a half-mile away from where those doors are. I'm always curious what music they're listening to during this ride. You can see here that they are pulling up to the launch pad, 2 Teslas. We have the crew split in half there with some closeout team members that obviously help support them. We lovingly refer to them as the ninjas because we see them all around assisting the crew in things like getting into or ingressing the capsule. So here, this is one of my favorite moments of launch day when they get to see their rocket up close. And man, just thinking about the fire that's going to come out at the bottom there in just under an hour.
Yeah, and at this point you can see our commander and our pilot walking down, as well as Marcus and Alper to their Dragon capsule before they get in.
Yeah, so at this point in time, that side hatch is closed. We had the post-ingress crew briefing, and we heard great news. We heard that the weather is looking good. I think the exact words were, weather is great, and that everything is healthy. So both Falcon 9 and Dragon vehicles are ready to go to space, just like the crew.
Excellent recap, Kate. All right.
On countdown. Polling is complete. Both Dragon and Falcon teams have pulled go for launch escape arm, propellant load, and launch. Stand by for abort instructions. T-minus 45 minutes. Both control rooms go into lockdown and remain in that state until the launch escape system is disarmed. All operators are to remain at their console and maintain a sterile cockpit until MD confirms successful disarming of the launch escape system following orbit insertion or propellant offload in the event of a scrub. For non-urgent no-go conditions, brief the CE or LD, and they will approve aborting the countdown. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operators shall call hold, hold, hold on the countdown net. Launch control will abort the launch auto sequence immediately and proceed into launch abort. At T-minus 10 seconds, launch control will be hands-off and relying on automated abort criteria for the remainder of the count. Operators advise the launch director whether structural breakup or fire is imminent or occurring per Dragon manual escape flight rules. Launch control at this time. You may proceed with arming the crew arm for movement.
Launch control copies, proceeding with arming crew arm for movement.
Well, there you heard it. We are go to proceed with propellant load in just under 10 minutes.
Crew arm retract has started.
And we are beginning to retract that crew access arm. Both the Falcon 9 and Dragon are go for launch. Wow, great view of that on your screen right now. And in a moment, we should hear some additional directions from our launch director to the team. Now, of course, the crew is currently on board, again, with that great view of the crew access arm moving away from Dragon. They're at historic launch pad 39A. So now the range continues to be go for launch, and we're monitoring the clearance area around the launch pad, as well as air and sea space around the flight corridor. Even though we have been keeping an eye on some possible storm cells near the launch site, the conditions are predicted to be acceptable for launch. Downrange landing zones, if needed for an escape, are also go. Now, the full retraction of that crew access arm is expected to take about 2 minutes and will be followed almost immediately with the arming of the launch escape system.
Crew arm retraction is complete.
There is confirmation that that's complete. And with that, I'll hand it back to you, Kate.
Thanks, Ronnie. As we heard, The crew access arm is now moved out of the way. It is in its launch configuration. This is one of the last physical changes to the pad that we will see prior to the liftoff of the AX-3 crew. The next milestone that we have coming up will be arming of the launch escape
Dragon
system.
SpaceX, with that you are go for Section 6, close visors, and arm launch escape system.
SpaceX Dragon in work.
All right, so right now the crew is activating the launch escape system. They're using the tablets there, the touchscreen in front of them. This system is the first of its kind escape system. It provides the escape capability all the way to orbit. It is our
SpaceX Dragon, visors closed, arming launch escape system.
All right, for those of you that have recently tuned in, we are now within 20 minutes until the launch of AX-3 to the International Space Station. Officially, T-minus 18 minutes on the dot. We've had a pretty clean countdown so far today. As I mentioned before, this launch countdown is the framework that syncs everybody together. We have teams in Houston, here at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California, of course at the Cape itself, firing room 4, and everything is proceeding nominally. The reports that we heard earlier during the post-crew ingress briefing was that the weather was great, although we can see here on our screen a little cloudy, but we see some blue skies through there, so love to see that. We also heard that the team was working no major issues. Both Falcon and Dragon remained healthy. At T-minus, I believe it was 35 minutes, T-minus 35 minutes, we began prop load or propellant loading. We now see some of these white clouds billowing from the vehicle. This is totally normal during this propellant load phase. We are currently loading our super chilled, also known as densified liquid oxygen onto the vehicle, as well as rocket-grade kerosene, or RP1. We will continue to see these clouds kind of forming, and we'll get even more of them right after those closeout lines complete at T-minus 3 and 2 minutes, when both the first and second stages complete all of its propellant loading. Like I said, everything continues to look great. The crew is currently strapped into their seats. There's a 5-point safety harness. You can think of it like a seatbelt, but it's a little bit more advanced than that. Actually, we see a live view of the crew there waiting so patiently as we are getting... All right, so there we heard that call out that stage 2 LOX load has initiated. That is that super chilled liquid oxygen being loaded onto the Falcon 9 second stage, which of course is the part of the rocket just below that black and white trunk section that we see there on screen. So the crew, at this particular view, the person on the far left is Marcus Want, one of our mission specialists. To his right is pilot Walter Vilade. To his right is Commander Michael Lopez-Alegria, or MLA, and on the very far...
SpaceX Dragon, the displays are so configured, and do you mind if I say a few words here, Jake?
MLA, I do not mind at all. You've got the floor.
So first I want to thank our partners who had the vision and the conviction to help AXIOM open access to humans to low Earth orbit, and they are the Italian Air Force and its various ministries of its government, the Space Technologies Research Institutes of Turkey, TÜBİTAK, and the Turkish Space Agency and its ministry, as well as the Swedish National Space Agency in tandem with ESA. And I also want to thank the team. If you're listening to this through an earpiece sitting in Hangar X in launch control or in Hawthorne and mission control, you're on the team. And the same is true of people who'll be sitting at those consoles and consoles just like them, and mission control in Houston and the payload operations and integration center in Huntsville. Same is true for all the trainers that helped us get where we are today with the crew ready to launch. And of course, the engineers, technicians, managers, and executives who, over decades, designed, assembled, and are now operating the most complex vehicle in the world that we have the privilege to go visit. Same is true for the visionaries who conceived and developed this amazing rocket that we're sitting on and the beautiful and capable capsule that we're sitting in. And if you're in the Rescue Ops Center, you guys are on the team. And of course, so are our friends and families who have given us their love and support from the very first step of this journey. And last but not least, the team at Axiom Space, the people who have poured their blood, sweat, and tears into this. So the four of us that are lucky enough to man the good ship Freedom at this point are humbled to be on the team. We're grateful to our teammates, and we are go for launch. Plus ultra.
Copy all, Mike. As we just ticked through T-minus 8 minutes, I'll let you know you've got a whole bunch of people rooting for you here and indeed all over the world. Godspeed, Axiom 3.
Gas closeout started. Expect loud venting.
Call out to our crew there that loud venting is expected.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
There's that
Dragon is in countdown.
confirmation that Falcon 9 is in startup and Dragon is in countdown, which means that the vehicles are now controlling the final seconds as we lead up to liftoff.
Dragon, SpaceX, go for launch.
And there's confirmation from our flight director.
Go for launch.
We are go for launch.
T-minus 30 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Engine full power. And liftoff. Go Axiom 3.
Further beyond, opening the door for more to follow. Godspeed, AX3.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Of course, if you are just joining us, this is the launch of the Axiom 3 launch to the International Space Station. Those incredible views on your screen, and there's our first shot of the AX3 crew inside Dragon on ascent. Now, in just a few seconds here, we should hear the call out that Falcon 9...
power and telemetry. Stage 1 throttle down.
There's that call out that Falcon 9's engines are throttling down to help us pass through the period of maximum dynamic pressure during ascent.
Max Q.
There's that call out for Max Q.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
And that Falcon 9 is going faster than the speed of sound. Now, at this point, we will begin to throttle Falcon 9's engines back up.
Stage 1 throttle up.
There's that call out for mission control as well, as our AX3 crew continues on their way to space.
We're now T plus 1 minute and 32 seconds into flight. The next event we have is MVAC chill, similar to what...
MVAC chill underway.
There's that call telling us that, again, we're flowing a little bit of that super chilled liquid oxygen.
Stage 1 Bravo.
Copy, 1 Bravo.
That call there was one of the abort mode callouts that the crew is calling out as they are making their ascent on Falcon 9. Now, we're less than 30 seconds or a few seconds away from 4 events that will happen in rapid succession. Main engine cutoff, or MECO, as it's there on the bottom of your screen, stage separation, ignition of the first stage engine, and the first stage's boost back burn. Throttle down.
MECO. Stage separation confirmed.
SpaceX Dragon 2 Alpha.
Some loud cheers here as we can see that the
Stage 1 boost back startup.
first and second stages have separated. A beautiful view there. The brighter light is the second stage under power of the MVAC engine. That first stage booster is now heading back toward the Florida coast. One thing I love about daylight launches is we're going to get some amazing views. We should be able to see the Space Coast come back into view as the first stage gets closer and closer to landing zone 1. All right, that boost back burn has concluded on the first stage. Everything looks nominal with the second stage trajectory. Everything also looking good.
Dragon, SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
Everything looking good on the first stage as well as we see those grid fins begin to deploy.
SpaceX Dragon, loud and clear.
Now, the next two major events we're tracking for the first stage, which right now is on the left-hand side of your screen, is going to be the entry burn at about T plus 6.5 minutes, where we'll light 3 of Falcon 9's first stage engines, followed shortly thereafter by the landing burn at T plus 7 minutes and 32 seconds, which will be a single engine burn to bring us back to landing zone 1 at Kennedy Space Center. Great view there.
Stage 1 entry burn startup. Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
Everything continues to look nominal for
SpaceX Dragon, we copy.
For the second stage there on the right-hand side of your screen. These views really are breathtaking. Such clear, crisp views of both the first stage on the left and the second stage on the right. Right through with these clouds should be our first view. Once again, there it is. Just like magic, we see landing zone 1. Crowds cheering here at SpaceX Mission Control Hawthorne as we tune in to see if we stick the landing. And if you couldn't tell by the loud cheers, we did
Stage 2 STS is saved.
We did stick that landing. Falcon
9. INVEC shutdown. Dragon, SpaceX, you're in a nominal orbit.
There we heard those call outs of second engine shutdown and nominal orbital insertion. This camera view here is taking a look at Dragon. What we're waiting for is nose cone deployment, among other things, which, as Kate mentioned earlier, there we go.
Dragon separation confirmed.
As you can see, Dragon has separated from the second stage. A pretty cool view here looking up at the heat shield that will return the AX-3 crew back to Earth in just about 2 weeks. So this is our first view of AX-3 flying free. The next physical change that we will see will be the deployment of the nose cone. That will take...
Dragon, this is the SpaceX Falcon team. We want to congratulate you on a great ride to orbit. I think you're demonstrating the ultimate in reuse, a reused Commander, a reused Dragon, and a reused Falcon. Or maybe flight experience is a better word. Enjoy space.
And Axiom 3.
No, Thurston. As I was saying, it's a team sport. Thank you, guys.
And Axiom 3, this is your launch director here. Walter, Alper, and Marcus. Congrats, welcome to your first flight on Dragon. Mike, on the other hand, welcome to the Dragon Frequent Flyer Club. I imagine you'll have enough miles to qualify for platinum status after this flight. Godspeed, Axiom 3, cheers.
All right, so it's hard to see at the moment because the camera is still close to the hardware, but this is the nose cone opening. Slow and steady wins the race. Of course, when you're in space, every action has an opposite and equal reaction. So for very good reasons, we don't just fling the thing open. It's very slow and steady. Again, this allows us to expose the docking mechanism, the hardware that will be utilized to dock with the International Space Station. That hatch, which is the forward hatch, will then be opened, and that's how the crew will get in and out of Dragon while it is up at the space station for the next 2 weeks. So that side hatch, which is where we saw the crew, or technically they were already in by the time that we started our broadcast, but the crew did ingress Dragon today, just a couple hours ago, through that side hatch. That remains closed. That won't open again until they are safely back on Earth on our recovery ship. So this nose cone that we see here slowly being opened is basically opening the first part of a multi-system door for them to get in and out of the International Space Station. I mentioned before that docking is autonomous. That means that Dragon does the steering itself. Our pilot, Walter Villaday, has the training and the capability to take control if necessary, but nominally speaking, Dragon flies on autopilot. It does the thinking and the calculation itself.
They can initiate that leak sequence. They'll get the data there on the ground to confirm a good leak check to proceed towards some of the next milestones. Mid-course expected if we end up executing it in about 18 minutes. Arrival at waypoint 0 in 38 minutes. What you're seeing now is a live view from the International Space Station. We have a tally-ho of Dragon Freedom and the Axiom crew inside. This is the space in between where Dragon arrives, and the hatch of Dragon and the hatch of the International Space Station. That space, that vestibule area, is currently at vacuum, so they'll bring it up to pressure to match the pressure of the International Space Station as well as Dragon. It's what we expect, is what we see here on sea level, 14.7 psi. It'll be a slow and methodical pressurization. There is some fluctuations that occur during pressurization due to thermal, just to make sure it's thermally stabilized and we're getting a good read on that pressure. So we'll do that slowly and methodically before opening up the hatch.
Readjusting the camera to make sure that it stays in view. So that's why it floats out of the frame and then comes back in.
And that tracking readjusts to capture it back in frame and allows us to keep good visuals on the vehicle as it approaches.
So right now, all 4 crew members are there inside that capsule. We're looking at the capsule from the top down. So we're actually looking straight into the forward hatch. This is the hatch that will be utilized to dock with the space station. And then there's a great view here. The pointy thing kind of at the top there, or what looks like the top to us, that is the nose cone. So that's why there's a bit of an asymmetrical shape from where we're looking, is because the nose cone actually after they get on orbit, we open the nose cone to expose the docking mechanism in the forward hatch. So
teams are analyzing just to confirm, but we are right on track for hitting that milestone. We have a clock on the board here counting down a little less than 20 minutes, and we're expected to arrive at waypoint 0. Sunset. We'll start seeing the views of Dragon Freedom and the AX-3 crew inside getting a little bit dimmer, but for now we can enjoy the International Space Station and Dragon flying over the Indian Ocean. We're seeing features of the Dragon spacecraft from here. On the very forward end, you can see that nose cone pointing straight towards the International Space Station, guidance, navigation, and control equipment facing right towards there, and there is a communications link called C2V2, Common Communications for Visiting Vehicles. Flight control teams you see in both of the flight control rooms. Getting even closer now, we're seeing the flashing docking light that's in the very center of there. You can start seeing the features of the soft capture ring, the gray center that's around the middle there. That'll be the soft capture ring. As we start getting even closer to the International Space Station, that soft capture ring will extend and prepare for a nice cushy contact with the International Space Station. It's that soft space station looks like from Dragon Freedom. We're just a little over 600 meters from the International Space Station. Eyes on both sides. We have the Dragon looking at the International Space Station and the Space Station looking at
SpaceX on the big loop. Ground has pulled go for approach 0, and we will be enabling the maneuver shortly. Expect to reach waypoint 0 at 09:58, and a reminder that Dragon will continue approach through waypoint 1 towards waypoint 2 without stopping.
SpaceX Freedom, we copy all.
400 meters, just waiting for confirmation of that waypoint 0 and approach 0 maneuver. Both vehicles now getting some views of Dragon. In the orbital nighttime, you can see those service section Dracos firing to keep its attitude right on the docking axis and its range rate as expected. Green starboard light and red port light, navigation lights on the forward end of Dragon coming into view. Again, we are in an orbital nighttime, so it is a bit dark. Those spec
5 meters.
Copy, 5 meters.
Inside 5 meters at the 2 meter mark, we may hear the call out chop, crew hands off procedure.
Dragon SpaceX soft capture confirmed.
As we continue to monitor the progress of this ring retraction, now getting some sun illuminating the nadir or Earth-facing side, and now the whole thing of Dragon Freedom. Sun is rising over the South Pacific Ocean as Dragon and International Space Station continue to fly on a southeastern trajectory. Coming together first through the hatches, Marcus Want and Alper Gezerauchi of Sweden and Turkey, respectively, being greeted by the crew of Expedition 70. The two are followed by Walter Villaday, pilot of the Dragon Freedom. Last coming into the International Space Station, Commander Michael Lopez-Alegria. "11 crew members representing 7 nations now on board the International Space Station. Into frame. We'll start seeing all 11 crew members come into frame as they close out some of their activities. We're expecting to begin the welcome ceremony on time in just about 3 minutes.
On behalf of the Expedition 70 crew, I'd like to welcome AXIOM 3 on board the International Space Station. This is an incredibly exciting time for human spaceflight with the 3rd private mission, which is allowing many more countries to participate in the scientific research and technology development that we do on board this orbiting laboratory. We have doubled the number of nationalities on board the space station, going from 4 to 8, which I think is a great testament to the international collaboration which underpins this marvelous space station. I'm also very proud as a European to welcome 4 other Europeans. I think this is the first time in the history of the space station that we have 5 Europeans on board at the same time. And certainly it's the first time that we have 2 Scandinavians on board. So I'm very happy to welcome my fellow Scandinavian, Marcus. But we look forward to the next 2 weeks, to an intense period of work on board the space station. So a big warm welcome to Axiom 3 from us on board the space station.
So now I'd like to continue a bit of a tradition that we've started, and that is to award the Universal Astronaut symbol pin, if I don't lose it, to each of these steely-eyed aviators. I think it's telling that these will be the 7th, 8th, and 9th people that Axiom has provided pins. In fact, since we started flying in 2022, no agency has pinned more new astronauts. And again, this is symbolic of us trying to open up the access to low Earth orbit to more and more people. So first of all, Colonel Walter Villadé, it is my pleasure to... No, I'm going to put it on you.
Oh, right. Okay.
You'll be number 609.
Wow. That's a privilege, Mike. Thank you so much. Let me see if I can stabilize myself without messing.
This is a real pleasure to award this pin to the first Turkish astronaut in history. I don't think I need to say anything more. Alper. Can you hold the microphone?
Yep.
Uh-oh. I actually broke it. There we go. And finally, Marcus. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Mike.
I failed to mention Alper obviously is number 610 and Marcus is 611.
Thank you to all participants and welcome aboard Axiom 3 station. We are now resuming operational audio communications.
All right, 11 astronauts on board the International Space Station working together for science and discovery. It's going to